This week, we're celebrating the Halloween season by discussing the spookiest levels in gaming. Join us as we discuss the scariest areas, creepy atmospheres, and the best games to play this Halloween season on this week's HGO Podcast. Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the HGO Podcast. One of your hosts today, Ethan, and joining me, as always, is my good friend Hunter. Hey, Hunter, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing just swell.
Ooh, I know what you're thinking, audio listeners. Is Hunter in a cave? No, he is wearing a mask because it's Halloween, and we're going to force him to wear it all episode so that the audio is perfectly crisp and clear.
That would make a hysterical, April Fool's episode, because I have, a dozen different masks that you can put me under for the duration of something.
Yeah, I know, right? It's like, it would be funny, but then I completely understand from an audio perspective that the audio listeners would just be crying at that point. They're like, we already don't get our notifications on time, let alone getting it, and then it's just muffled like you sound like you're Bane from The Dark Knight Rises. It'd be very fun indeed. But no, welcome on in, everybody. Hope you're all doing well. It is our Halloween-themed episode, so we're talking about the spookiest levels, the spookiest vibes in games. We're going to be talking about all things spooky this week, so come on in. The water's just fine, and we're going to have a great time. Before we do get into any of that, though, Hunter, for audio listeners or for those who are unaware, what is your costume?
Oh, I am dressed as V from V for Vendetta. Or
There you go.
Yeah, specifically there, because in case anyone was mistaking me for a random member of Anonymous, or Guy Fawkes himself, I suppose.
And one and the same. I heard, Guy Fawkes was the first member of Anonymous. That's what I've heard anyway. And then, I know what you're thinking. Ethan, you've done the video game CEO that goes to an award show before. You ain't fooling me. And I'm like, hang on a minute. That's not what I'm technically doing. I mean, it's close. It might as well be. But no, I am Ryuji from Persona 5. I've got my No More Rules shirt. I have got my plaid trousers on. I did have a wig, but it made me look like a mixture of Jack and Boris Johnson, and we ain't having that shit. Get that out of here, bro. So
the funny thing, the little cape in quotes that I'm wearing here is just the coat from the Joker costume I did a couple of years ago draped over me.
Yeah, well, it's like there was a part of me. This is like an official shirt, by the way. This isn't like some knockoff thing. I did get it. It was from, I can't remember, one of the places, but they were having a massive sale, and the real reason was in my continued delusion of hating Life is Strange Double Exposure, but really liking Max's design. A load of her stuff, like the bag and her coat, was like 70-80% off. So I just started buying stuff. This is what you shouldn't do, guys, by the way. It's just, you just start clicking add to cart, and I saw this Ryuji shirt, and I'm like, I can be Ryuji. And then I clicked add to cart on that as well. And I was like, this is great. And then I was like, I'll just put a wig on, look like Boris Johnson. Don't want that. And then I was like, okay, it's fine. I'll just put a blazer on. I'll put some plaid trousers on. We're all good. And then I know what someone's going to say in the comment section. This is his summer shirt. He never wears it with a blazer. And to that I say, screw you, okay? Screw you. I tried. I tried a little bit, okay? Leave me alone. They didn't do the yellow one, Hunter. They didn't do it.
Yeah.
But it's a bit low-key this year. I don't know. It's been a bit of an expensive year for me, just in gaming in general, the Switch 2. If you want to know where did the costume budget go, Switch 2. That's where it went. You happy now?
Yeah. My costume budget also very often goes to my regular clothes for myself here. And by the time I thought to buy something, it was already kind of too late.
You see, I was like, I could do this, but I was like, let's not. I've spent a lot of money this year. Let's just do a regular cheap one that doesn't involve lights so that it doesn't ruin the render, and we'll be good to go, was kind of what I was going with. So apologies if you had Ethan dresses up as a girl again on your 2025 bingo card. Unfortunately, I have we're even in the score again now. I think we're 2 to 4. I don't remember,
You know,
dude.
you just have to keep going through the cast of Persona 5 characters now, though. You've done An, you've done Ryuji.
Yeah,
You have a
true.
Joker mask.
I do have a Joker mask. You've done Joker though already, technically, so
Yeah.
can't be copying you at this stage. Who knows who I'll do next? Um,
Yeah.
who knows? Well, I'm running out. It'd probably be Yusuke,
Yeah.
I guess. That'll probably be what it was. But you
I
know
don't
what?
know. You could do Maruki pretty convincingly.
He has been my PSNI. Like I avatar for like the past 6 years. So yeah. Which always makes me laugh because people always go, and I don't know if it's just because I am a white guy with occasionally scruffy hair, but the amount of people that are like, "Why have you got an anime version of you as your profile picture?" And I'm like, "It's not. Thank you for thinking that I am as godly as Maruki, but it's not true. It is just a random guy with glasses." Thank you though.
Oh, yeah.
But hey, we're not here to talk about Persona 5 today, Hunter. We're here to talk about spooky games. Spooky season is here. Happy Halloween, early this time for us, just because the way the calendar works. But we're going to be diving through some of the creepiest vibes in gaming, some of the creepiest areas, locations, levels, you name it. We're going to dive through into a load of those. So if it sounds like a good time, come on in. I'm sure it'll be a blast. But hey, if you're new here, welcome on in. This is the HGO Podcast. We're here every Monday around 5 p.m. UK time, 12 p.m. Eastern on podcast services everywhere and youtube.com/Hot Gamers Only. Tiny bit of housekeeping for you. Number one, if you are in the UK right now or in Europe and you're saying to yourself, Ethan, the podcast came out an hour late. No, the clocks have gone back in Europe, but they haven't in America, and we go off of America because they're the majority audience of this show. So for the next couple of weeks, it might be out an hour later. I don't remember. Hunter, when do the clocks go back in the US?
Usually the first week of November.
So it might just be this episode, I think, but
perhaps one more after this.
maybe one more. Apologies. It's just the way it works. In terms of reviews, we have got a ton of reviews coming out right now on the website. You have had my Yooka Replay review. We have got a Silent Hill F review coming up for Hunter. You've got Hades 2 that's just come out from Hunter. You have got a crap ton. You might have a Ghost of Yote review from Ethan because I've beaten that now, and I actually have some things to say about it, surprisingly. So keep an eye out on that. We have got so much stuff. There are so many games coming out. There are still so many games coming out. I haven't got to Pokemon yet. Still haven't touched it. But there's plenty of stuff coming out as well. I'm tempted to also be reviewing Dispatch, but I'm waiting for the whole game to be out. The first two episodes are out.
Did you play the first 2 episodes?
I've bought it. I haven't played them yet, but I am planning on playing them week to week. But once the whole game's out, there'll also be a review of that on Hot Games Only. Hunter, a new Telltale game from the people that made the 2 that I like? Of course I'm playing it. Of course I am. Why would I not? They're the only 2 that matter. The Wolf Among Us and Tales from the Borderlands. They're the only 2 that matter, buddy. That's all that matters.
That's true.
But yeah.
Where's that Wolf Among Us 2 at?
Never happening.
Dude, sometimes it's been so long that sometimes I think that it's come out and I just forgot about it. And then
it's been that long it's been that long that Ad Hoc were the original studio making it, and they backed out and have made Dispatch in the time that it's taken for the Wolf Among Us to come round. Like, so many people. Deck 9 were involved at one point and dropped out of the Wolf Among Us 2. So many people have been involved in that game. It's never going to exist. But hey ho, it's all good. Thank you for the support on all the reviews. If you can go and check them out on hotgamesonly.com or on youtube.com/hotgamesonly, that'd be very much appreciated. And then if you are an avid reader, you can read Cal's articles. They're up on the website as well. Plenty of stuff coming out from us. Anyway, we've dabbled long enough. We have ranted and raved long enough. Let's get in to the spooky season, Hunter. Spooky levels, spooky gaming levels, spooky vibes. Yeah. Where do you want to start? I feel like I should preface this, okay? If you're new to the show, if this is the first episode you're tuning in to, thank you for checking us out. Like, comment, subscribe. Haha. Hunter, you're a pretty big horror fan in terms of like horror games and spooky games. It's kind of your jam. It's not mine, okay? The spookiest I can go is like this weird lollipop that's got like a witch, a pumpkin, and a weird, but like Count Chocula, like vampire looking creature on it. That scares me, and that's about as creepy as I go. You look
Do those, like,
concerned.
separate at all, or just like, I guess
Yeah,
I
they're
feel
like
like that would
like
stop.
on a spike, aren't they? They're like on a spike. That's like kind
Okay.
of what we're going for here. But I
Oh,
digress. I don't know. My parents just bought it me. I don't know. They were like, "Here, have this," and I'm like, "Thank you. I'm not
I feel like
12, by the
once the
way."
top one is gone, unless you have, like, unless it breaks off easily or something, it
You just
becomes
gotta, you just gotta ram
hazardous.
it down. You just gotta ram it
Yeah.
down and hope for the best. You gotta ram it down and hope for the best. Um. Anyway, Hunter's a big horror fan. I'm not. Okay, I am the squidgy lolly of horror fans. I don't like them. I get scared easily. Um. So for me, it's more like scary, creepy vibes, or just creepy vibes in non-horror games. And I'm sure Hunter will have a bunch of actual horror, scary places as well. So
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think this opens itself up to the broader conversation about it rather than strictly horror games.
100%, 100%. I'm gonna throw it over to you first, Hunter. Where do you want to start?
So I'm gonna start with Crow Country. It was a
Okay.
horror game that came out last year. Takes place in the titular Crow Country amusement park that has been abandoned for about a decade at the time of the story. And I remember one of the things I said when I reviewed that game was horror games don't use the creepy abandoned amusement park theming enough. I feel like that's something that really lends abandoned locations in general really lend themselves to that kind of creepy vibe, and amusement parks have like a built-in reason for it to be aesthetically different as you traverse throughout it. And I don't know, it's weird that that's one of the first instances in a long time, if ever, that I've played a game that just kind of takes place in one.
It's not on my list, but I always find abandoned amusement parks kind of creepy. I remember to be honest, it should have been on my list because there are plenty of areas in Near Automata that give me very creepy vibes. But the
Oh
amusement
yeah.
park in particular, with the haunting music and just walking
Oh
around,
yeah, with
there
the
is.
weird chant.
Same with Lies of P.
Mm.
There's a section where you are in an abandoned amusement park in that game as well. And there is something about an abandoned amusement park that is just automatically creepy. I don't know if it's because it's a like, it's a place manufactured for fun. And it's like it's dead and decaying and there's all creepy happy mascots that are all like kind of absolutely decrepit. Um there just must be something about it. But yeah, I think that amusement parks are extremely terrifying. Hunter freezing, making me edit things. How dare he?
Yeah.
I forgive you. Anyway, I think I was saying something along the lines of amusement parks are inherently creepy. The whole decrepit mascots and all that kind of, things falling apart. A place of joy rotting away is always something that
Yeah, all the
gets the
life it
vibes
was
going.
supposed to be brimming with is just decayed out of it.
Yeah,
It's
100%.
yeah,
It's a creepy choice, and
yeah.
I think not only does Crow Country invoke those vibes just from that naturally, but also the PS1 horror aesthetic is something that is, it just has a vibe to it all in itself. You don't necessarily might not necessarily scare you as much as it did back then, but it's like it's still an effective look for a video game where it's like sometimes I question, when people do these retro throwback. I'm like sometimes I'm like, okay, 3D platformers when they looked like that, they had a charm to it for sure, but I don't necessarily yearn for it. Whereas a PS1 horror game, I'm like, fair enough. I can see it. I can see the
Yeah,
vibe.
yeah. There's something about the old horror games where even though, visual technology has come so far,
Yeah.
uh, it sometimes doesn't work as well to a horror game's advantage as you might think it does because, the more decrepit something looks, be it from limited technology or not, the more it works to the effect of it.
Yeah. I do have a soft spot for games like that. Um I like games that go for the poly look, but then also are clearly doing something that's a lot stronger than the actual hardware could do. Where it's
Yeah.
like it gets the message, it gets the visuals across, but also there is no way that Crow Country could ever run on a PS1, and I kind of like
Oh
that. I
yeah,
love
like
that.
the free aiming and stuff you can do that in that game is something that they wouldn't have been able to do at all.
Yeah, 100%. But no, I think that that is a very good place to start off. Um, I'm just gonna get the extremely obvious one out of the way, right? It was going to be mentioned here at some point or another. We've mentioned it in, I think, all of our Halloween episodes, so I might as well just get it in early, ram it in there, so the Bloodborne fans can leave us alone. Bloodborne, and I want to specify because originally the topic was like spooky gaming levels. I just put all of it for Bloodborne, but particularly Upper Cathedral Ward. That gets my
Oh, that
vote
was your choice.
because
See, Bloodborne was on my list too, and I've got like two specific levels in mind, but I'll let you go first.
I mean, Upper Cathedral Ward was probably. Here's the thing: is Bloodborne. There's a lot of creepy aesthetics and creepy vibes, but it's like all of the Cthulhu horror, aliens, madness stuff near the end is effective, but I don't really find it particularly like scary. Like all the nightmare stuff, I'm like, it's just kind of it's goofy
Yeah.
fly monsters chasing me around. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, not too fussed about it. But there are a couple of areas like Upper Cathedral Ward where it is just like giant werewolves hiding behind corners that jump out at you and make you like properly like, oh god, there they are.
Yeah.
And it's just the
The area
darkness
is
of it.
mostly dead.
Ironically, for a game that's set entirely in the nighttime, it's one of the only areas where it truly feels dark because you've got like the woods and stuff like that, but the moonlight is pretty bright in most areas of that game. So it's like
Yeah, true.
the Upper Cathedral Ward, it's just that mixture of it is one of the darker levels. It's annoying as hell. There are werewolves around the corners that just jump out at you, where you're just like, it's a small area, but I think it's a really effective area of getting across its tone, and then also not being so long. Like there are like the woods, for example, where the woods go on forever. Where I'm just like,
Yeah.
this was a cool vibe at the start, had a bit enough now, and then when Backstreet's back at the end of it, and you're like, okay, I've had enough. I've had enough. Thank you. What areas did you have for your Bloodborne list?
So the one I had for the base game was the Hemwick Charnel Grounds, just because I think the idea of an entire like little separate, almost suburb village of Yarnum that
Hmm.
is, populated by these witches that are apparently just taking people and like cremating them in houses and stuff is, you know, I think it gets across the vibe pretty well, especially when you have to like break into the village itself through all their traps and stuff, along with the all the buildings that you can't enter are clearly like little cremation houses. I think is a really cool vibe.
Hmm.
Um, the only bit of a problem I would have is that the Witch of Hemwick, the boss at the end, is pretty lame.
It
But
is quite possibly the worst boss in Bloodborne. It is whack, 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 phases away, try to find the invisible bugger, whack, whack. It's like, it's so tedious. It is.
yeah,
Especially if you don't have the
uh,
insight, because obviously the big gimmick around Bloodborne is obviously the where your insight level is can affect different bosses in certain ways. And it's like 90% of the time when you reach the Witch of Hemwick, you are not at that point where you like, it's always going to be a pain regardless. So it's like, it's not worth grinding the insight. So you're just sitting there like playing like
yeah.
hide and seek with a stupid witch that just disappears and reappears every time. It's not fun.
And then the other section I had was the research hall from the DLC, where that's kind of like that's where the cathedral is in the base game,
Hmm.
and they've got all those experiments and stuff going on with the people with the giant heads and all the fluid that you can hear moving around when they walk and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's one that's like creepy for the illustrative purposes of, oh man, yeah, this church was messed up, wasn't it? Kind of thing.
Yeah,
Along with like the body
100%.
horror element of the swollen heads and stuff was particularly effective.
Yeah, it's like one of the only areas really for me where it is that kind of the Cthulhu experimentation stuff actually is quite creepy. Um, was like, but yeah, it's I think it's pretty effective. I think Bloodborne is very effective at setting its tone throughout the entirety of it, to be honest. But
Yeah.
yeah, always good to talk about Bloodborne. See you in another 12-month Bloodborne
See you in
fans.
another year at least. Perhaps before that, who knows?
Who knows, dude? Who knows? All we know is Bloodborne 2 will still not have no Bloodborne remake, no Bloodborne anything. See you next year for our yearly recommendation. It's always in the thumbnail, so you're always clicking. See you next time.
Yeah.
What's up next, Hunter? What have you got?
The next one I'm gonna go with is Still Wakes the Deep was a horror game I played earlier this year. It takes place on an offshore oil rig, which
Mm-hmm.
I think before you even add in any kind of horror game elements, there's something inherently disquieting about being trapped on an industrial complex in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah, it's probably the fact that you're alone and that there's like a non-0% chance that it could just all explode at any moment, to be honest. So that doesn't really help, does it? Um,
Yeah, yeah. OSHA violations abound.
yeah, yeah. Um, Still
And
Wakes the
then the
Deep
thing,
is just a very cool concept. I like
yeah.
it's a cool little game from what I've
Yeah,
seen.
yeah, and then I think the thing that Still Wakes the Deep that's really cool that a lot of horror games kinda don't do, is that it's like you're playing through, like, the ground zero event happening this time. Whereas a lot of horror games, usually the disaster has kinda already happened, and you're someone trying
Yeah,
to,
yeah.
like, survive through the pieces or going back to discover what happened or something, where, uh, the whole thing with this game is right before you get kicked off the oil rig, the people drill too deep, and then suddenly catastrophe happens.
Mm.
And then, from there, it's you really are dealing with the OSHA violations and all of that as they try to kill you, along with the Cronenbergian monsters that are populating the rig now as you try to find some way off or understand at all what's happening. I think it was really effective. There was, I think, the most disquieting part of that game was this time that I accidentally got the guy drowned by falling into the wrong pipe. I was like, I just had to sit there and watch him expire too. I was like, uh, yeah, that wasn't pleasant.
Yeah. No, that's fair enough. Like I say, it's funny how little it's like, I think that's why everyone always brings up The Last of Us. Everyone always talks about that first scene with Joel and his daughter when the outbreak actually starts, because it's very rare for you to actually see a 0 day in any horror kind of or kind of infection kind of premise, because usually it's usually a couple of weeks or something like that after, or decades after. People like, it's
Yeah.
very rare that you actually get to spend some time in um ground zero. And for Still Weeks of Deep, it is just ground zero. The entire game is still ground zero, which I think is quite cool.
Until ground the end, yeah, pretty much. It just begins and ends there, or whatever the DLC is. I don't know because I didn't play it, but that's
Hell
how
yeah.
it goes.
We've been talking about a load of like more modern things recently so far, Hunter. So I want to throw it back to kind of, when we're talking about creepy stuff, also things that I found creepy in my childhood, right? And one thing, and I still think it's creepy even as an adult, Lavender Town in the original Pokemon games, dude. It's just
Oh
the
yeah,
idea of a town being dedicated to dead Pokemon and having a big tower that's like, this is where we bury all of them. And just climb up it. Ooh, like it's just like, I already think that, as Pokemon goes on, like ghost type Pokemon Hunter used to actually be kind of creepy. You know what I mean? Where it's like Ghastly
now they're just
Hunter and
silly little
Gengar
guys.
would like, yeah, they'd like steal your dreams and like, like haunt you like actually proper ghosts. Like now it's just like a pair of keys and a teapot. Like,
Yeah,
so it's like the idea of just that going into one town which is all about the dead and everybody is super monotone and super creepy, and you've got to climb this tower that's just again full of ghost type Pokemon, and just the lore behind Gen 1, like Cubone wearing the skull of its dead mom and stuff like that, where it's just like all of that stuff as like a 6-year-old playing these games, like playing that game for the first time, creepy as hell. Like just
Yeah, the music in
absolutely,
Lavender Town too, just that
yeah.
back and forth tone that it's got going on.
It's also, again, talking about like Crow Country and stuff like that. It's Lavender Town in Let's Go or in future like kind of iterations of it. Nowhere near as creepy. It is like the Gen 1,
Yeah.
the Gen 3 kind of chip tune music, and just kind of the way it presents itself in that style that's particularly creepy. And I just kind of really like that they went all in. And I kind of miss that because there are so many like modern Pokemon. Obviously, you're not the biggest fan of Pokemon, so you don't really know much about modern Pokemon. But it's like,
Not
nowadays
especially.
it's like, oh, you're going to the grass type area, and then the last generation, which was like the grass type gym leader, he just has a bunch of Sunflora. Can you find 5 Sunflora around this town that's just, got a windmill in it? And it's just kind of lame, innit? It's just like, I don't care about this. What's the point here? Like, what's your job? Like, what's this town's specialty? I guess it's a farm because there's a bunch of like there's windmills, but it's like, you know what I mean? Where it's like in Gen 1, it's like, yeah, in the ghost type where the ghost type gym is, that's just where we put all the dead Pokemon, dude. And there's a whole grave
Yeah.
skyscraper, and you've got to climb to the top of it. There's just some creepy stuff there, and I kind of appreciate it. Not to be a Gen 1 fan, because we all know that the most annoying people on the planet are people that are absolute diehard Gen 1 fans, but still creepy.
Yeah.
What have you got next, Hunter?
All right, to stick with a more classic kind of flair, I will bring up the Legend of Zelda here. There's usually some kind of obligatory creepy segment in most of the games, as one would discover if you played a few of them. But the one that's always done it the best, and the one that they are unlikely to top unless they go out of their way to try, would be Majora's Mask, with the Iconic Canyon is the one that's known for being like where they go all in on being creepy, even though like the whole game is very unsettling as a
Yeah.
whole. One specific area in Iconic Canyon that I kind of always think about, even though it's relatively innocuous, is there's this area behind the waterfall where it just kind of, because it's, it shuts off all the music that you would have got right before there. So the creepy little dead moaning that's built into the theme song for the area is gone, and then it's just stillness. And then it's a relatively simple, like you go into the 4 rooms and fight some mini bosses that you already fought or whatever, but you're still greeted by the little severed head ghost hunter guy telling you, oh, blah blah blah. And I always just, that's one area that always stuck out to me in the broader context of the Icona Canyon zone in general.
I think Majora's Mask is just, like you say, I don't think they'll ever top it in terms of its creepiness factor. I don't think Nintendo would be comfortable making a game like Majora's Mask again, if I'm honest with you. Because
No,
there
no,
are
probably
genuinely
not.
parts of Majora's Mask where if you are 8 years old, you will get nightmares. Like, you will genuinely, like, you could, like, the imagery in that game already is so kind of extreme. Like,
Yeah,
the mask itself is terrifying. The moon with the eyes coming down at you as it rains from, it's already so heavy that it's like, it's just,
every time you put on one of those transformation masks, Link has like a little spasm of
it's like he's
extreme
screaming.
pain.
Yeah, it's like he's
Yeah.
screaming in pain. It's just, I do not think you could make, unless they remade Majora's Mask, I don't think a new Zelda game would ever get that creepy again, to be honest with you. I remember when
Yeah.
Tears of the Kingdom was coming out and everyone was like, oh, it looks like they might be taking cues from Majora's Mask. Did they heck? Did they heck? There's nothing scary
Yeah.
about that game at all. And it was a damn shame. It was a damn shame. They should have made it more creepy.
Yeah, that was one of those things I was kind of hoping for, but I also think that I did my best. I definitely didn't hold it against the game once it came out, because that's also one of those things that, like, you get ahead of yourself before a game comes out and you start gassing up the idea you want without actually, like, what was the real evidence that it was gonna be creepier? That the sky was red when Ganon took over, like, uh,
Yeah.
but, uh,
I mean,
yeah, I don't.
there are still some creepy things about Tears of the Kingdom that I'll give it to you. Some of Zelda's uh lines, especially when the blood moon comes and stuff like that. There is some creepy moments there where even though you could easily, it's easily foreshadowed and stuff like that. There's some creepy moments in the way that some of the dialogue is shown in that game, but compared to Majora's Mask, it's nothing. It's baby steps.
Yeah. Even if they made a concerted effort to try and outdo Majora's Mask, I'm not sure they could, because I don't know. Twilight Princess felt kind of like they were trying to do that, and I don't think they succeeded.
No, but no, fair enough. Uh, Next up, I've got plenty of places that we can go here, Hunter. What are you feeling, dude? Old, new, something in between? What are you thinking? What are you feeling?
Go with something in between.
Something in between. Okay, I wanted to bring this up because I'm a big Zombies fan, as you know, Hunter. Call of Duty Zombies. I'm a big fan of Call of Duty Zombies. And
Meh.
there's so many good examples of that in that one game mode of creepy places and creepy vibes that it's like I could be here all day. Essentially all the stuff from like 2008 to 2012 could all fit under that kind of that aesthetic, you know? It's like if I just list off, it's like one of the first Zombies maps was in a German asylum, where it's just like, a World War II German asylum where you're just locked in and the power's off and you've got to, it's like there's some really cool places. But the one that I have to give it for the most creepy vibes that they've ever done, in my opinion anyway, is Mob of the Dead in Black Ops 2, which is essentially a story about four prisoners trapped in an endless cycle in like a hellish version of Alcatraz, where
Ooh.
essentially at the start of every game, you are a spirit who has to wake up their own body, and the whole idea is they're constantly following this escape plan that they've always been through over and over again. So they build a plane, they escape off the island, they crash onto the Golden Gate Bridge, and they have to strap themselves into the electric chairs and they zap themselves back, and it's an endless cycle that goes on and on and on. And the whole story of the map is that you have to escape this cycle and break this cycle and escape from purgatory, which is essentially what you're trapped in. And it's such a good idea for a horror game, and the fact that they used like such a good horror premise of being stuck in like Alcatraz, which is like a form of hell where all the souls of the damned like kind of manifest themselves and try and escape this constant cycle of pain and torture, and they wasted it on like a third game mode in an extremely normie video game is completely like astounding to me, where I'm just like sitting there and I'm
Yeah.
like, it's such a good premise and it is such a good map as well. And it's like, it's got this whole side narrative. It was basically, there's this whole zombie storyline, and for the longest time, this map, they eventually fit it in, but this map never was just a completely separate story about four prisoners, and you learn about what happened in the real, what actually happened, and how one of them betrayed the rest of them, and they killed them, and the only way for them to break the cycle is for that one person to kill everybody else. And it's like, there's so much good stuff there, and it's so creepy, and it's like, there's baths filled with blood. There's just constant screaming all over the place. Like, there's just so much good like imagery there that I'm just like, my God, what a incredibly atmospheric like thing to come out of the most normie video game ever made. It's really
It
impressive.
is.
I really love it.
It it is impressive always hearing about, like, the hidden lore of the zombie stuff, and a number of times I'll be like, "Oh man, I wish this was in a I wish this was on its own or in a game I would actually play."
Dude, it's like one of those things where it's like if it wasn't attached to the worst video game of all time, like it's like if they just like released just like they just took every zombies map they ever made and put it in its own side project. It's like I feel like it's something that there's a lot of stuff there that you would actually jive with because there's so many
Yeah,
good
probably.
settings and things. It's just a shame that it's strapped to the most basic, boring video game of all time, you know? Um
Heartbreaking. The worst person you know makes a good point.
yeah, legitimately. Um But there are so many. Literally, I could spend like 20
uh,
minutes just on COD Zombies alone, where it's like, you've got Zetsubo no Shima, which is like um, it's a Japanese island testing facility where they were experimenting on the wildlife and the creatures, and it's just full of like, it's just full of spiders and like creepy test subjects and stuff like that. There's so much stuff that you could pin from. There's so much good stuff. There's a 1940s map set in like what is essentially an old version of like Chicago with Cthulhu
oh.
monsters hanging over like everything and you doing rituals and sacrifices to open up the map. It's like there's so much cool stuff where I'm like, again, why limit yourself to this third game mode? I hate you, but I love you as well, and I hate that I have to buy a $70 video game to play a small part that I actually enjoy. There you go. Good old Black Ops Zombies. Hunter?
All right. So the next place we're gonna go, um, kind of unavoidable to talk about something like this and not mention Resident Evil, but I'll go ahead and skew a bit newer rather than talking about like the obvious one would be like the Spencer Mansion. But I'll go
Mhm.
with the Benevito house from Resident Evil Village.
Oh,
Was
yeah.
a really tense moment in a game that was otherwise very unthreatening.
Mm. It's the one part of the game. That's the reason that I haven't played Resident Evil 8, is because of that
Yeah,
area.
yeah, because otherwise, like that game probably wouldn't bother you. Otherwise, as I think I've said since I played it,
I don't
like,
think
oh,
it would, and I think that's what I find really funny is that a lot of people are like, "Oh, Resident Evil 8, Resident Evil Village, it isn't that scary, except for that one section." And it's like for a lot of people, that's like the scariest moment from Resident Evil that they've had, like where they just really the whole, you know, without trying to spoil too much of it, but the thing that's in there and everything about it is absolutely terrified to people. Like it just got them, and I'm like, fair enough. Like my god,
but yeah,
not for
like the
me.
general premise of being like the kind of puppet dollhouse thing that you're entering, and you have to relinquish all of your weapons in order to move on, and all
Mm,
of that, I think is really good because even just in the first couple of hours, you've already dealt with Dimitrescu, and at this point, like I said, the game isn't very threatening at that point because most things you just shoot in the knees twice and then in the head once, and they fall. So
mhm.
taking your weapons away actually does leave you pretty vulnerable.
It's the closest the game gets to say Resident Evil 7, which a lot of people is
Yeah.
the scariest the franchise has ever gotten. Um and I think it's when you feel helpless. I think that's the thing is when your only solution really is to avoid and kind of weave in and out. That's like that's the scary part because like you say, if you've got a gun, just keep shooting or shoot it in the leg and run away a bit more. You've got nothing to defend yourself with really, other than your wits, and that's if you're anything like me, that's a terrifying prospect.
Yeah.
I feel like there are plenty of other places though to mention from Resident Evil. Um, I think the iconic one has got to be like the Raccoon City Police Department. Just the idea of, again, it's one of those creepy things where it's like anything medical, especially like the medical wings of the Raccoon City Police Department. There's just something creepy about those kind of areas and that aesthetic where it's just like,
Yeah.
almost it's
In
like
the
the
in the
cells and all
remake,
that jazz.
everything's just really wet too. So like very unpleasant to be traversing through because you can just imagine Leon's socks are drenched at that point, and that's no fun.
And yeah, I think that especially, I mean, we can get into this a little bit later, um, but it's like when you're playing a game for the first time and you don't know the solution to everything, you don't know how Mr. X or Nemesis or any of these things work, right? Lady Dimitrescu. It's a lot scarier that first time round because you don't know all the tricks that the developers have done to kind of work their way around that. So it's just like the
Yeah.
idea of, hey, Raccoon City, the police department. Yeah, it's very wet and creepy, and oh my god, he just burst through a wall. Like that's the kind of like that's what makes it
Yeah.
scary. Is just like the silence and just waiting for something to happen is the scary part of it.
Yeah, when I played the remake for the first time, I remember stopping off of just hearing the echo of my own footsteps in my headphones because I thought it might have been Mr. X out and about.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like I for reference, if you're new here, the only Resident Evil game I've played is the 4 remake. That's the only one I've mustered the courage to play. Um, and that first time round, there was plenty of moments where you're like, "Oh god, this is terrifying!" Like running around the village at the start, trying to figure out how the hell am I supposed to get out of this. There's so many of them. Oh my god, there's a guy with a chainsaw. What am I doing? Or going into the freezer and having that creature just chase you around and try to
Oh, the
figure out
regenerator.
waiting for the regenerator. The regenerators are terrifying enough that where you're waiting for the lift to come down and you've got to run away from that big bugger for like 5 minutes because you can't
Oh yeah, yeah.
unless you got a rocket launcher you can't kill him, so you've just got to avoid him for 5 minutes and it's terrifying. But then when you replay it, there's some creepy moments and there's some creepy scenes, but you know the tricks, you know what to do. It just becomes a, like you say, two shots, two shots to the leg, drop kick them, like it just kind of, you get into the moment there and then you just, that's where the fun begins.
I think that with Resident Evil 4, the village is like the area that presents itself the most creepily, whereas the castle, there's too many parts that are just kind of cool looking or impressive, like stately, that are to be scary. And also in like the original version, they had the goofy statue and all that going on. But
I
and
feel
then
like, yeah.
by the time you get to the island, it's just already ramped up the action so far that like the only thing that was intimidating in that part of the game was the regenerator because you had been locked in a room alone mostly.
Yeah, it's like, I feel like that game is very clearly split into three, where it's like the first third is traditional horror, your second third is your campy kind of horror, where it's not very scary, but they're putting on a show, it's very flamboyant. Then you've got the
Yeah.
third, which kind of, to me, kind of epitomizes like 2004 in terms of like horror, because it is like, it's an island base and it's very kind of, it's very military in its kind of aesthetic, where I'm like, yeah, this to me screams like if they were to do a Resident Evil in 2004, this is kind of what I'd expect them to be like. Yeah, military base and regenerators and stuff like that. That's kind of what I'd
Yeah.
expect. And it's almost where I feel like they started to lean later with 5 and 6, where it's like it goes very much, like you said, heavily into action and heavily kind of into that style. And I'm like, it's like I can deal with the traditional horror at the start. I can deal with the camp. In fact, I love the camp. I think there's parts of that that are brilliant. Um, the island, the regenerators are really cool, really creepy. But also, do we need to play rocket launchers on a oil rig again? I don't know. What is it with what is it with oil rigs?
Yeah,
But
who
no, I think
knows?
there are so many. You could literally go through every Resident Evil and list their iconic moment, Even with Requiem coming out in just a couple of months, I'm sure people will be talking about that weird creature chasing you around that hotel because from the previews that we've seen, it does look creepy.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Where shall we go next? We've been talking about some like actual horror things for a bit. Let's take you back to creepy in a not so creepy way. I tell you what, I've got two because they're small ones. but they kind of go for the same vibe. The first one is in the same way that you kind of think of like Nightmare Before Christmas in terms of like creepy Halloween stuff, where it's just more like an aesthetic. Medieval, I think, is just a very fun
Oh
kind
yeah,
of
yeah,
spooky like kind of vibe
spooky.
where,
Yeah,
you know, I just think it's one of those games where they just kind of nailed the look of it, where it is just kind of campy Halloween, Hey, look, you're playing as a knight who's got one eye and he's been, he just falls to pieces all the time. And it's just like, I just love how they just went all in on it. Like, it's an extremely campy kind of Halloween game. And every time I get to this like time of year, I'm like, I could replay Medieval. It's a fun little romp that gets you through it. And we're back again. Wow. Hunter, your internet is creeping me out today. That's for
yeah. We're
sure.
being haunted. It's on theme at least for this time.
We're being haunted, yeah. Um, but yeah, when I think of fun creepy, like camp creepy, that's what I think of as like Medieval with running around as a skeleton whacking people. Kingdom Hearts also gives me those vibes, those Nightmare Before Christmas levels where you just they're very
Yeah, for
well
sure.
done. They're very well done in their aesthetics, and I appreciate it.
I have on my list, I've got like the same kind of Halloween themed levels for like 3D platformers because
Hmm.
platformers love that. Like with Banjo and Kazooie, with the Mad Monster Mansion is one where you turn into like a pumpkin
Hmm.
when you go to Mumbo, and then Big Boo's Haunt from Mario 64 is the other one that I think of a lot when I think of levels like this in platformers, where you know haunted mansion. They take away the stairs when you enter the big foyer at the first time. The several stars. The goal is dedicated to just finding all of the boos hidden around, and then a big one shows up to harass you.
Yeah, I love kind of spooky Halloween themed areas in games. It's always a fun one. Another platformer, might as well list the Crash Insanity is another one where Academy of Evil is always a fun
Oh yeah,
little area. Um, but there's one in particular from my childhood that I did want to bring up. That actually did creep me out a bit. Sly 2, the Contessa levels from Sly 2. For anyone who hasn't played Sly 2, there's 7 chapters, and each one is like an episode of a TV show essentially, where it's like you get an area, you get a premise and stuff like that, and a lot of them are two-parters. So you get like 2 parts to a story, really. Uh, and there's a character called the Contessa, who is a Black Widow spider, who is basically just has the spooky level. So you've got like 2 kind of spooky levels. You've got like a prison, and you've got like a very traditional kind of Eastern European town that you would see in like a Frankenstein or a Dracula, right? And these as a kid absolutely scared the crap out of me. One, that they creeped me the heck out, I should say, because not only were like all the monsters in like the guards and stuff like that, like werewolves and bats and all that kind of jazz, but also the whole premise of the first episode in particular is Sly and Murray have been arrested, they've been kidnapped, and they've been sent to prison. So you're just playing as Bentley, who is the worst. Like, he can't kill anybody, he has to stealth around basically. So you've got to, like, most of the episode is spent breaking Sly and Murray out of this creepy European penitentiary. And it's like, it's such a good, again, for this kind of game, it's such a good idea to be like, oh, how can we make, you know, a creepy-ish level for a bunch of 8-year-olds, right? So a bunch of sitting there going, how can we do it? And it's like, yeah, give them the worst character, make them actually stealth around a bit, try and figure it out. And I just like, the aesthetic is just really well done. I just like it quite a bit, and it really fits the theme. And then the second area is pretty good as well. It's got like, again, very campy stuff. You're breaking into cemeteries and coffins to try and suck up ghosts like you're in Ghostbusters to try and steal their essence, and there's a load of fun stuff like that. But I just think it does it very well, and the fact that they dedicate like a quarter of the game to a creepy aesthetic, I'm like, that's kind of fun. I like that. Anyway,
Yeah.
Hunter.
The next one I'll go to is the Ocean View Hotel from Alan Wake 2. Yeah, this was probably Alan Wake 2 in general did a good job at like balancing the weird, wacky kind of out there surrealism of Alan's parts with the kind of more like Twin Peaks mystery thing with Saga. And I think it did
Yeah.
a good job at both of those. But my favorite level was the Ocean View Hotel with Alan, where essentially you're kind of like traipsing through this, you know, weird abandoned hotel, all bathed in like red light and stuff through most of it, all while like the narration and stuff that you're changing up for the story that Alan is writing kind of is like talking about a detective tracking down this cult that's been performing rituals and stuff in the hotel. Kind of is the general premise. I think it just does a really good job at like, taking you through all that once you get to the main crux of what actually develops in the story there is really good. It's like it's the imagery that sits with me the most in the game, with like the red light framing a bunch of the like silhouettes and stuff throughout the area.
Yeah, I mean, again, with Alan Wake 2, Remedy's nailed the tone. They just nailed it. Where it's like,
Yeah.
It doesn't matter which kind of side you're on, whether you're with Alan doing incredible dance numbers, or you're unfortunately with Saga, who doesn't get to do incredible dance numbers.
She gets her own kind of musical part later.
She does,
Not to
but
the
Jeff
same
Keighley
scale.
didn't represent it, so it's worth nothing, Hunter, in this modern society. But I just think they nailed the tone. I wish I was a horror fan, because I feel like it is just kind of a dream for horror fans, Alan Wake 2, where it mixes so many ideas together. And it's a game, it's only just turned profitable. It's a game that it's like almost shouldn't be made, and it was, and it's just like, hell yeah. I love the
Yeah.
vision. It's so good.
Also, if you've like played all of their other games, it's easy to see that like they've always it feels like they've always wanted to lean into some kind of full horror production at some point. Like besides like Alan Wake, the first Alan Wake being mildly spooky, but still not even really a horror game. Like going back as far as Max Payne, they had like levels that were dedicated to Max having a nightmare that were nailed that tone too. So getting to see them finally bring that urge to fruition with Alan Wake 2 was really good.
Totally. Where do I want to go next? I've still got a couple. Let's go with this. We mentioned this game a little bit earlier, so I'll mention it now. It's not a game. I'm gonna say a controversial take and then give it its flowers. Okay, and we already slammed the pair of these games enough. The Last of
Oh,
Us,
here it
right?
goes.
Yeah, here we
Yeah.
go. Right, I don't think. Sorry, Last of Us fans. I don't think this game, the games, do that great a job, really, at any of their kind of spooky factors, spooky levels. I don't think The Last of Us is particularly scary at all. In fact, to be honest, I think
Like
there's a lot of
so
times
much so that
where
when
the level
people
design
bring
was
it up
bad.
as a horror game, I'm like, what do you mean?
But
Because like it has zombies in it, sure. I don't think it
mm,
ever really tries to be scary beyond, oh, they might eat you.
I think there's two sections. There's one in each game. where I actually
Yeah.
go, "Ooh, that was a good tone setter." Um, Part 1, the hotel sequence under the hotel,
Yeah.
where you have to turn the generator on and get out of there. That is terrifying. That is actually a really good use of them, where they lock you into an area and it's scripted, okay? Hate to ruin the immersion. If you actually figure out how that room works, there's nothing in there. That's my favorite part about that, is if you go looking around for the unless you turn the generator on, Hunter, there is nothing there at all.
Yeah.
As soon as you turn that generator on, everything spawns and then it becomes actually terrifying. And I love that. I think it's great because unless you know that from like a game design perspective, you can't tell. And I think that's even better. I think it's brilliant. I think it's really well done. It's really creepy. I like it. Um, Part 2, I don't think it's anywhere near as good as that scene, which is funny because they made it as a massive big deal. But it would probably be, yeah, the Rat King is a pretty, interesting area with the hospital and this big kind of, I don't know, what would you call it? This big giant behemoth of a disgusting
Yeah,
creature that
it's
you
like
have to run away
it's a
from.
big amalgamation of a
That's it,
bunch
an
of other.
amalgamation.
Yeah.
But
Which, yeah, the Rat King being, a sequence in the second game was all has since it came out been the thing where I'm like, see, this is how they're not horror games, because this one takes out of the horror playbook and it's distinctly different from everything else.
yeah, yeah. It's like the one section that is an actual horror. And ironically, what's really funny, Hunter, about that section is it's fantastic up until it actually shows itself, because then it does the almost Resident Evil 4 playbook of just stick you in a room with it. And it's like, oh, okay, I'm in a room with it. But unlike Resident Evil 4, where it can actually do something to you, the game just goes, remember you got a flamethrower about 20 minutes ago. So you're just literally just blasting it with the flamethrower until it dies. And then it's gone. And then that's it. And you're just like, oh, I guess that's it.
Yeah,
There you
yeah.
go.
It feels like there needed to be some kind of environmental thing to neutralize the threat of the Rat King, to maintain its, you know, aura after you beat it, even, because it does feel real silly to just sit there and shoot it and toast it to win, even when it does the thing where it like breaks apart or whatever. That
Yeah,
was weird.
it does. I don't know. It's Last of Us to me is one of those games. And to be fair, I think fair play to a lot of Resident Evil. I don't ever feel like this with any like Resident Evil, where cutscene Joel and gameplay Joel are two completely different characters. Cutscene Abby and gameplay Abby are two completely different characters. Same with Ellie, right? Where it's
Yeah.
like gameplay Abby can absolutely destroy a Rat King and have a grand old time with no problems. And then it's like cutscene Abby struggles in a 1v1 versus Ellie. And it's like,
Yeah.
then that they're not the same. They are two completely different characters because gameplay Abby would wipe the floor with Ellie and it's not even close. So it's like,
I think
I
the
just,
way that Resident Evil avoids this problem is like with Leon. They make him do these things in the cutscenes, and then they ask you to live up to that, rather than,
yeah,
vice versa, where they're better in your hands than they are in the hands of the story.
yeah, 100%, 100%. But I think those two sections are the only times where I feel like they work. Um, Please don't ever make a part 3, for the love of anything. As someone who likes part 2, please don't make part 3. Thank you.
If for
I
no other
will.
reason, then I don't think I could stand another round of conversation regarding
So
one of
true.
these.
Dude, I think my favorite part is how this podcast has been going not that long. You can see our original reactions to part 2 coming out. We were on the side of, hey, this game is
I think it
fine.
was good.
Yeah. And we have
Now
just
it's like I'm just like, I don't agree or disagree anymore. I'm just sick of this guy.
I still feel the same. I'm just sick of the conversation. Like that's the thing,
Yeah.
is I still liked part 2 and I still like part 1 as well. But I've had enough. I've had enough.
Yeah.
Right, Hunter, what else have you got?
All right. Gonna get back to more standard fare here. The Ishimura from Dead Space is tick another one for the bingo box here.
Thank God.
It's just really well crafted as far as like an actual location. They put a lot of thought into it to begin with, and being trapped in a spaceship with no escape, with, as we discovered last year when we put everyone else from across video games in horror settings, the Ishimura is the hardest one to survive.
Yeah, 100%.
um yeah, where the necromorphs are the most threatening monsters, just coming in their bog standard mode where they got their bladed arms and are super fast and all of that, and can just make more of them out of any dead body that happens to be around. uh the kind of psychological warfare that happens to the people on the Ishimura via the little stone that's sending everything all crazy to begin with. That's another element of it. And then yeah, it's like an actual location. They do a good job to like make it feel like a place that's in the remake you can pretty much walk from one end of it to another without it ever
Hmm.
being broken up by anything. Whereas, in the first game, the only reason that wasn't possible was because they had to like actually load in everything and all of that. But,
Yeah.
this time around you could walk in, and that I think that just solidifies how well executed it is as a location. Like even without the little blue line telling you where to go all the time, if you took that out, you'd still be able to pretty much figure out where to go because they signpost everything really well as far as like how to get around, like if you were a person in the world.
Hmm. Yeah. I I think there are, for a lot of these places, like a lot of these games, I think what really works, and I think it works particularly well with Dead Space, is when it feels like a lived in place, where it feels like, the whole ship is the whole ship. It's not a whole ship in terms of a gameplay sense, where it's like, if you were to mash all the levels together, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. This actually feels like a proper ship, and it's like, they've
Yeah,
made
like
it.
there's no incinerator next to the freezer kind of business you might get if you took any other game and like smashed all their levels together.
Yeah, 100%. I think another game that I wanted to bring up that fits in this exact same category, not necessarily a horror game, but again from creepy atmosphere and just from an actual lived in setting, the original Bioshock.
Yeah, that was one I had on here.
Hell yeah. Let's talk about it now. Because my God, just the tone of that game, right? Where it's like, it's already, it starts off already where it's like, plane crash in the water, lighthouse, go below, creepy, underwater city. And you're like, oh, cool, underwater city. And then you're like, no, everywhere's leaking.
No,
It's
everything
decrepit.
hates you.
Everything hates you. There's these weird little girls with these big, like, behemoth metallic men that are walking around.
Yeah.
Um, all the Tannoy announcements and stuff like that. There's just, honestly, you wonder, like, we sit here and we go, why have they spent so long trying to make a fourth Bioshock game? And it's like, that first one was just lightning in a bottle, dude. It just was lightning in a bottle in terms of setting and tone.
Yeah. I think on my like list here, the specific level I had was like the when you're confronting the doctor
Hmm.
while he's harassing you, I think was one specific part of the game that always stuck out to me. Like I'm pretty sure that's where the blinking light trick happens, where like, you walk into the like it was like a bathroom or something maybe, and
Hmm.
the light goes off and then it comes back on and guys attacking you.
Yeah, yeah. Dude, I just it's just one of those games where it's like, I've never finished the original Bioshock, and it's usually just because I find it a very stressful game to play, whereas Infinite, I know a lot of people don't like Infinite. I like Infinite. I'm still of the mindset that I think it's a pretty. Do I think the story twist is a bit bad? Yeah, but did I have enough fun with the rest of the game? Yes, I also, I find it quite enjoyable.
Yeah,
With that
I
game,
liked
you can
Infinite
just
well
kind of
enough.
go with the gameplay flow, where it's just like, yes, there are things that are like, pushing up on you, and it can get quite aggressive. Like, it can get kind of very it can get very what's the word I'm trying to think of? It can get very
Hectic?
hectic. Thank you. There you go. That's the word. Very hectic very quickly. But there's something about that claustrophobic atmosphere of the original Bioshock where it's just like it raises
That
the
one
stress
stresses
levels
you
to
out when no
11.
one else is bothering you, is
Literally,
the
you can just have
issue.
like 2 or 3 people. You're just like, like, because it's just so claustrophobic. Where it's like,
Yeah.
in Infinite, you've got so many ways you can jump on the sky rails, you can do all sorts of stuff. Whereas like the original Bioshock, you're just kind of stuck in a room with a bunch of creepy looking freaks, and you're like, this is very stressful. I'm gonna have to turn the game off just for a
Yeah.
little bit. Then
Normally
I end up never going
normally
back.
inside of a tube that looks like if you misfire, you're gonna break it and fall out into the ocean.
Yeah, like genuinely. Um, yeah, I think it's fantastic. What a tone, dude. What a tone.
Yeah.
Right. I've got a couple more. Not too many, but I've got a couple more. Another newish one that I'd feel remorse not to miss. Returnal.
Ah, yeah.
In particularly, obviously the house in Returnal. But I think the whole of Returnal is creepy enough as it is. But I just love that you're just playing that, you're this you're this astronaut crash landing on a alien planet that you have never visited before, and the first thing you find is your own corpse is already, creepy enough as it is. But after walking around for the first few cycles, just walking in and seeing your childhood house crash landed on the planet, all creepy and derelict. And as soon as I walked into that house hunter and it went into first person, I just said, "Oh no," and paused the game, and I was like, "I don't know if I can do this. This is creepy."
I
Um,
specifically remember one of the trailers for Returnal, not the reveal one that came later, definitely baited me into thinking it was some PT thing because of showing off the house and whatnot. And I was just like, wait, it was this? What do you mean? That's
dude,
not what this looked like before.
and
And
it kind of
yeah,
is, dude. Like, oh, there's so many creepy moments with the astronaut in particular, where it's like there's the classic times where you just turn around and it's right there in front of you, just like staring
I
at
think the
you.
most unsettling one is like the one sequence where little Celine tries to talk to it.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the one that I always think of. They like go and retrieve like a toy or something and bring it back. It's like trying to have a conversation with it, and it just kind of looking at you until it comes to an end.
yeah, that one's definitely creepy. I don't like the one where you look out the window. That one always is like you just look out the window of the bedroom and it's just there in the like in the outside. I'm just
Yeah.
like, nope, get out. No, 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 no. There's also the one where you hear a knock on the door and it's outside the door. No, 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 no. There's just something about that vibe because it's funny because it is just like a NASA astronaut. It's like it's not something that's particularly astronauts are kind of goofy looking. They just kind of
Yeah.
are. They're like big
Got the
they're like
giant
stay put
fishbowl
marshmallow
heads.
man. Yeah, they are. They're the state they're just the marshmallow man from Ghostbusters, but with goofy fishbowls on their head. Like that's what they are. They shouldn't be that threatening and that creepy, but in that setting they are. They're terrifying. Um and I think it's a really effective use of uh the house in the game and just in the overall narrative. I think it's a really clever way of giving you some subtle backstory um
Yeah.
in a separate format that you wouldn't be able to in normal gameplay. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. You did a great job outlining Celine's descent into madness.
100%. 100%. What's next, Hunter?
All right. So next, I'm gonna go back to the kind of theme with Bioshock there. As far as games that could be horror games if they choose to be, but don't. Super Metroid and Metroid Fusion both. I'm gonna shout out for once again the cold discomfort of space. I remember when I played the Super Metroid for the first time, like the introductory title sequence there was just dripping with atmosphere right at the beginning,
Mhm.
where it kind of just has the slower piano tone plus the cry of the Metroid, while it kind of like gives you the shots of like the space station or whatever before landing on the title screen. I think is really good. Um, Really, as far as Metroid, at least in its 2D version goes, where I think the tone comes off a bit better than with Metroid Prime. It feels like they're going for a bit of a different vibe in general, but with the 2D ones, really the only thing separating Metroid and something like Dead Space are the capabilities of the protagonist. Where it's not a horror game because Samus can kill anything that moves mostly,
Mm.
but
Yeah.
otherwise it is still remarkably threatening. You're, you know, trapped on this planet with monsters that would easily wreck your day, at least the first time you see him.
100%. Um, I just yeah. There's Metroid again. It gives itself space. Always is a great place for horror and for just creepiness in general, because obviously it's just the idea of having to explore a place that has not been explored before, uninhabited, either uninhabited planets or even worse, inhabited ones that you've never, that no one's ever encountered. Even if it's just
Inhabited,
like,
but very hostile.
yeah, even if it's just, even in Dread, the robots chasing you down, and it's just like stuff like that. It's like the pressure is always on. And it's like,
Yeah.
I appreciate that about Metroid. The only thing that, yeah, like you say, that doesn't make it a horror title is just the fact that Samus is like one of the most powerful bounty hunters in the universe. She can just do anything, really. Um,
Yeah.
so it's always good to have. Um, I've made most of mine are very small ones, so I'll go with just these two can go together because they're kind of in similar veins, and that's just nightmares or nightmare sequences. Um, Obviously, you mentioned PT and you mentioned Kojima before. One of them is Death Stranding. I feel like Death Stranding's, and it's not necessarily, it's the creepy bits where the babies, the doll of the babies going down the weird sewer and what's happening. Not any of that. It's mainly just the unexpected kind of creepiness of Death Stranding, with the random nightmares that happen at any given point. I think is
Yeah.
um the moments that are effective for me. The big one that we've brought up many a time on this podcast is the Higgs in the mirror, which is always creeped me the heck out. But there are so many of them in like both the first and second game. We mentioned in the second one there are the weird the weird quizzes that you can do, and then there's just a nightmare version of it with Elle Fanning just asking you who your favorite character is, and there's nothing inherently scary. There's no jump scare. There's no nothing about it. But
It's
it
one of
just
those
freaked
things
me
where
the
it
hell
feels like
out.
a threat if you don't answer correctly.
Yeah. I picked her just because I was scared of
Yeah.
saying it was somebody else because I thought she was going to stab me or something. Like, I was like, that's terrifying.
Yeah, they're like,
Um,
"Oh, I think it's fragile."
yeah. Yeah. Death Stranding has plenty of creepy moments, some really kind of goofy nightmare sequences that I just think always stick out to me, where it is just, giant Amelie's walking around and all that weird jazz, where it's just like, creepy kind of tone setters, where I'm always watching my back in Death Stranding. I'm expecting somebody.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. It's the anti-safe house from Resident Evil, where it's like whenever I go into my room, I'm expecting something bad to happen instead of like the opposite way around, where it's like you should go and have a rest. I don't want to. What if Dollman attacks me? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Like definitely in the second game, I was trying to instigate that stuff to happen more, where I made sure to like, try to remember to look in the mirror as many times as I could.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's creepy. And then the other one, again, nightmare sequences, almost a classic. We brought this up before in a Halloween special, so I won't speak too much on it. Arkham Asylum, the Scarecrow sections, the Scarecrow nightmares, very effective, very good trends, especially the first one because you don't know it's coming.
Yeah.
That in particular is pretty great. Just having to walk around the, Jim Gordon, Jim Gordon's corpse not having a skeleton if you check it, just like stuff like that, where it's like it's just really clever. And also the third one is also extremely clever. Not to hate on the second one, but the first and the third were really effective because it has the whole fake game over and going and repeating the
Yeah.
start of the game, but you're chained to the chair with Scarecrow walking you into the asylum. Just some really good stuff.
I think that Arkham Asylum is just like a broader setting in general is really good for the, kind of like the Halloween game kind of vibe where, Batman kind of gothic and spooky already as a setting. Arkham really leans into that.
Yeah, it's a fantastic game, man. It just really is. The older I get, the more I appreciate Arkham Asylum, where it's like, it was as a kid, it was my least favorite of the three or the four. Well, no, it wasn't. Origins was my least favorite, but of the three Rocksteady games, it was my least favorite. And as I get older, the more it becomes my favorite. Where I'm like, I think Arkham Asylum is my favorite of the three, just because it
Yeah.
is so good with its tone and its setting. It's just fantastic. It feels like a comic book come to life. And the rest of them just kind of get bogged down a little bit by open world level design, which is just a bit of a shame. I still think they're all fantastic though. There you go.
Yeah.
How many more you got, Hunter? Take us home.
Well, Arkham is one that I had written down too. I was intentionally leaving it off because I
Because you knew I'd show up.
figured you had it, yeah. But yeah, I'm pretty much down to my last one here.
Oh, well, I've got two, technically.
All
So
right.
did you want me to... Mine are two small ones, though, and you're probably proper. So let's get these two little ones out of the way. First one, also a bit like a nightmare, but I just want to... It's a nightmare because, one, there were some creepy moments, but two, it's a bad video game. Life is Strange Double Exposure. Let's bring it up real quick. That one scene in episode 2, it's been a year now. Can I actually talk about this on a podcast? Can we do that now? Is that allowed? Episode 2 of Life is Strange Double Exposure. Creepy as heck. And I wish the whole game was like that. I really hope that if they are going to punish us by making a third one of these, like another video game, that they go all in on this because it was so good. The creepy aspect of it, there's two scenes in particular that I wanted to bring up. The first one is the cabin. When you go to the cabin and it's been broken into.
Yeah.
Flipping scared the hell out of me. You can go and my reaction to it is on YouTube. If you want to go and watch it, it's on my VOD channel. I think it's the most viewed video on the VOD channel, to be fair. So fair play to it. But yeah, it's creepy as heck because it just comes out of nowhere. And I kind of really appreciate what they were going for, because it was, you just had a bit of an escape mission going on. You've just done, you've done a good job. You're like, oh hell yeah. Well, I'm gonna go back home. See you later. And it's like, pretty positive. And then just instantly the tones changed, and it's just there's so many little moments where I'm just like the door slams. You can hear stuff happening downstairs. Some really good stuff. And then it's just the reveal. Like, I'm still butthurt, dude. I am still butthurt that they, had a premise and such a, someone has been in the house. You walk down the stairs. The photos that you've been leaving to develop from Safi's camera, who died, are finally done, and she just turns around the photo, and it's a photo of herself pointing a gun at Safi. It's just, and the expression on her face as well is not one of sadness or anything. It's like it's a creepy image. Like every time I see that image, it's like,
yeah, her expression's kind of lifeless.
Yeah. And it was just like, just the whole vibe of it, being in a dark room, which is already a creepy vibe. Dark rooms are creepy, right? The red light and everything like that. It's already a creepy area in general. But then to get that photo and just like be, shocked, but also creeped out at the same time. What a moment. Fantastic. What a great moment. Shame the rest of the game is absolutely terrible. My gosh, they should just remake the game, keep the first 2 episodes, and then literally do anything else with the rest of it. That's my premise. Give it another try. Mainly just because I want to erase the second half of that video game.
Yeah.
And then also a small shout out also to Before the Storm. There's some creepy little nightmare moments in that kind of come out of nowhere. Chloe dealing with the loss of her father. She has like these kind of
Oh yeah, there were
memories,
a couple
these
of
of
those.
her in the car with her dad before he gets killed by a train. And there's some particularly creepy ones of those. The one in particular that creeps the hell out of me the most is when the camera pans to the other side of his face and it's all disgust, like it's all
Yeah.
burnt and mold, and it's, you know, Two-Face kind of moment. Scared the hell out of me. I think we've said this before, Hunter, and I still truly do believe it. I think that Life is Strange might benefit, that kind of game might benefit from going closer into the creepy horror realms. I think some of the strongest stuff they do is when they lean kind of into the creepy and the otherworldly, and I don't think they do it enough sometimes.
Yeah, I do think that they would have something going if they kind of lent into it being like a paranormal mystery type of deal.
Which we thought we were getting, but you know, hey ho, it's
But
fine.
never mind. Yeah.
Power of friendship and all that jazz.
Instead, we
Uh
got the X-Men.
no, we didn't. It's not happening. Uh, then the other one I wanted to give before you wrap it up with a proper one. Persona 5 Strikers, the Okinawa jail in Persona 5 Strikers. That whole
Oh
section,
yeah.
so creepy that you go to the night, for those of you who haven't played Persona 5 Strikers, please do. It's a very underrated video game, I feel like. In terms of as spin-offs go, it's so good. Like, it's a very good video game. They do like the whole Persona Summer Vacation bit, but then they kind of turn it into a slight kind of horror twist. I thought it was really cool the way they did it, where, you know, they go to Okinawa, they they're hanging out, they're doing their bit, and then it turns night and everybody's like possessed. And then it's like they get pushed into a dungeon, like into a jail. There's just like this creepy experiment site that is just honestly best jail theme in the entire video game. What a theme. But just the whole vibe of it, so cool. So cool. So shout outs to you, Persona 5 Strikers. Great video game. Okay, Hunter, what's your final one?
Yeah, bringing it home, finishing the bingo card. Silent Hill.
I'm
It
shocked,
cannot
dude.
be
I'm shocked.
escaped. Yeah, just it's just really well done as far as the fog being a rendering trick at the beginning of the series' origin is never something that will not make me laugh because it just turned out to be one of the most effective like methods of freaking people out uh, that a game has had. I've been playing the second game for my friends for the past couple of weeks, and just the way that they found a way to render the environment in that one in back in 2001 was so desolate and broken and effective that every time that I do something in that game, one of my friends is sitting there talking about all of the disease James must be catching by simply existing and touching things in that world. It's hysterical.
I mean, yeah,
Where like
everything
it's
is
the twist.
rusted and grim. Dude, he's gonna get some kind
Yeah.
of infection instantly.
In the second one specifically, everything's like dilapidated and waterlogged too. Along with like I remember stopping at one point going, wow, they were really good at like 2001. They found the formula for uh destroyed like paint on walls. That was something that I stopped and I was like, that is like impressively well rendered right there because
Mm,
it was a level of detail that it's one of those things where on modern systems and whatnot, like some of this stuff, even though they're trying to make it, you know, desolate and messed up, it's still too clean.
yeah, yeah.
That was part of why I was so doubtful that the remake was going to be effective, was that a lot of this stuff, especially in the trailers, looked like it was too clean. Not like every area in Silent Hill 2 looks like it looks like it smells like a damp basement.
Yeah. It's
And I think that I think that any game that can make me think of what it probably smells like is really effective at conveying what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, it really does know how to set its tone. I mean, if you felt for Leon in his shoes, good lord. God help
Yeah,
James, dude. I don't even want to. Dude, just burn the shoes, dude. Just burn the shoes at that stage. Like,
yeah,
no. Um,
certainly.
but yeah, I think Silent Hill, there's a reason why the aesthetic of Silent Hill is so iconic, and it's just, it started off as a limitation and it just turned into kind of what the franchise is, and fair play, it's,
Yeah,
I think all great game ideas come from a limitation in some way, shape or form, I think, genuinely, I think that's one of the reasons that we are in such a rut that we are with modern video games at the moment, is the
yeah,
technology is there that people can just work on a game for 7 years and can
yeah.
happily do that, and there's no restrictions and everyone's fine. And I'm like,
Yeah, it's kind of led to a stagnation because it's one of those it's like a decision paralysis thing almost, where it's like, oh, we can do anything we want, and then they just keep choosing to do things that they want, and because they can do all of that, there's nothing they have to cut. Um, they're not forced to make any creative decisions about it.
100%, but I love that they were like, hey, a lot of a lot of games in this era have fog, because a lot of games do.
Yeah,
um let's make it the feature, let's make it the the main aesthetic, and I very much respect that, because there are a lot of old
yeah.
games where you're like, damn, there's a lot of fog. And in the PS2, there were a couple of them, looking at you as well, Persona 4, that were just like, it's the aesthetic. And I'm like, sure it is, bud. Go get him, champ. Go get him. But I think that, yeah, Silent Hill is one of those few ones where it's very clearly a restriction, but it
Yeah,
actually adds to it. Silent Hill would not be Silent Hill without the fog.
definitely not. I've seen the mods where people take the fog away, and it looks weird and unnatural.
Yeah, 100%. Uh, well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Uh, there we go. That is a bunch of creepy levels and games. Let us know what we missed. I'm sure we missed 6 bajillion things. I could have gone on about so many different things, but alas, that's all we have time for this week. I also find it extremely eerie, Hunter, that somehow, even though I jokingly, before we started the show, just spammed so many timestamps and we were like, yeah, that'll be plenty, it actually turned out to be the perfect amount, including your multiple
Perfect.
internet crashes. So,
Yeah.
apologies if some of the bits of this podcast seem like there was, multiple jumps. It's because the scariest thing of this episode was Hunter's internet, ladies and gentlemen. My goodness. A true
Typical.
terror. A true terror indeed. Our links are on screen right now. You can go and follow us on Twitter or on Blue Sky if you want to keep up to date with what we do outside of the podcast. Yeah. We hope you all have a fun Halloween. It's almost, what it's almost Christmas, and that means it's also nearly we don't have a special name for the Game Awards, do we? I was trying to think of like
No, it's just
Kemas, Jeffmas. Do we go with Jeffmas? Is that what we go with? Because it's key 3. Do we go with Jeffmas? I don't know.
I think Jeffmas is probably the best shot you got at one of those, but truly the Game Awards are the scariest thing of all.
The true Halloween event of the year.
5 hours this time.
Dude, with the amount of games, it wouldn't surprise me, dude. It wouldn't surprise me. But yeah, it's crazy. This year's gone very quickly, just very quickly. I'm not just saying that because as you get older, years get quicker, just in general. But there's something about this year where it just has its flown. Absolutely. Anyway.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like we jumped from like April to September in a flash.
Do you know what I mean when it's like, it feels like the Switch 2 has been out forever now? Like, that genuinely feels like it's been out forever, and it hasn't.
Yeah.
It really hasn't. I can tell by
I
the
know
number
what you mean,
of
though.
games.
Donkey Kong Bonanza feels like a lifetime ago.
Yeah.
That was July. Like late
Yeah.
July, too. That's insane.
It's been 3 months, mate. It's been 3 months. So yeah.
I know. That's insane.
Anyway, yeah. Join us next week for whatever the heck we have planned next time. I have no clue. I guess we'll find out though. But until then, thank you so much for hanging out with us this week. If you enjoyed what you heard, hey, maybe hit that like button, subscribe, or follow us on your favorite podcast service. We'd really appreciate it. Any 5-star reviews would be appreciated as well. And like I mentioned earlier, there's been a bunch of reviews. Hades 2, Ukulele, Ukulele, Silent Hill F, loads of reviews, all coming out or are out. Go check the website, go check the YouTube channel. We'd appreciate your support on those as well. But hey, we'll leave it there for this week. Thank you so much for listening and watching. We'll be back, same time, same place, next week for more. But until then, have an awesome week. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Bye.
Doodaloo.
And we're clear. Okay, Cal, you can stop doing the invisible man bit now. Great costume, by the way.